Embry is excused from the meeting. He called in.
Mr. Cantner?
Here.
Ms. Wood? Mr. Hodge? Mr. Vosell?
Here.
Mr. Wood?
Here.
Mrs. Derndak?
Here.
Actually, Mary called me too. She wasn't feeling good, so I guess that would be considered
Okay,
an excuse.
Mary.
And I see her
All
name
right.
isn't up here, so she probably called
name
Sherry.
is up there.
Oh, she is? Okay. Yeah, she just called this morning and said she was really not feeling too good and to pass on the word. She apologized. She can't make the meeting.
Okay. All right.
Put the cat drug in.
Oh,
Hey, we got another one.
I learned this with Mary.
Can I do that again?
Okay.
we'll change that to here. All right.
Welcome back.
Minutes, February 27th, regular meeting minutes. Any comments, additions, deletions?
I move we approve.
I did have, could I just make a couple comments? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I know I just went over those and I just wanted to mention a couple of things here if I can pull it out. You guys
Yeah.
are moving so fast. I'm trying to keep
I
up.
think Dick's name was spelled a couple different ways.
Yeah. Well, there was, let's see, where was it? You know what? Where? Okay, I think this was on the May 12th minutes.
Okay, should we, let's prove
You wanna do
February
one at a time?
27th first then.
Down that way.
Skip, you still,
Yeah, I move we approve on the minutes.
do I have a second?
February.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, February 27th is approved. Let's go to May 12th.
Yes, ma'am.
Here.
I just on page, let's see, page 3 of the minutes, we're talking about my comments, and I said that the location of the airport is currently temporary. I think I mentioned that the expiration date was May 31st, 2015. I just think that's probably good to have in the minutes.
Okay, yeah, I do
Think
remember
so.
you did, the expiration date was mentioned.
And then on page 5, and I'm only mentioning my comments because I was the one who was saying them. On the 4th paragraph down, talking about zone for light industrial, and the last sentence, it's felt that this property would be the most minimal impact on the airport. I think I said he felt this location would be the most minimal impact on the airport. We were talking about the two different options, the two different locations, and I was emphasizing that option 3 with the GO line, which was the one closest to Aviation Boulevard, which was the least impact as far as airport development goes.
Anybody else? A motion to accept the minutes?
Move to accept the minutes with the changes suggested by Mr. Mender.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Public participation. Do we have any member of the public that would like to express their thoughts this morning? No. Okay. On to new business. First order is GO Line Transit Hub proposal. Do we have anybody here from that?
I can bring that up. I talked to Karen Deagle yesterday, who's the executive director, the CEO of Senior Resource Association, which handles the GO line. And what we're doing right now is going back and forth with a draft lease that has been submitted to the county to review for the particular property that was talked about as option 3 at that May 12th meeting, which was the one closest to Aviation Boulevard. It's 1.98 acres. And so there's really nothing at this point to present to the Airport Commission. There's still a lot of back and forth that needs to go forth. And we were talking about perhaps, I think at the special call meeting, there was some talk about maybe having the Airport Master Plan Advisory Panel look it over first. And we were even talking about doing a special call meeting for that. But special call wasn't felt necessary, especially since we don't have really any agreement at this point. So the talk is maybe let's discuss it if necessary at the advisory panel on July 21st, which is a regular scheduled meeting of the Airport Master Plan Advisory Panel. And then if we still have some agreement between city and county at that point, we might be able to go forward on the August Airport Commission meeting with something that we can present to you. I mean, without something to present from the city and the county, there's not a whole lot of reason to discuss it, is what we were feeling. So my recommendation at this point is that we would remove it from the agenda for this meeting and then possibly reschedule it for the August meeting. And later on in the discussion, we'll decide what date that would be in August.
That took away all of the pressure for the time frame that we were dealing under in the last meeting.
I still think they're under pressure, but there's just no way to get it back and forth and get it together. I mean, there's a lot of things, as we talked about at the special call meeting, that have to be ironed out, and they have to be put in detail in a written agreement before we can really present something to this body.
And July 21st, what time is that meeting?
3 p.m.
I was actually called Jay
please
Berkeley.
state your name.
Jay Berkeley, Berkeley Real Estate. I'm actually, you got roped into being the chairman of the future land use plan for the airport. I was actually called into a meeting with most of the county officials, Joe Baird, and the folks from Go Line, and they wanted, our opinion. I looked over everything. I didn't really know that much about it until I did a little research. From what I can tell, and I'm just saying this as a private citizen because our committee has no teeth whatsoever. Based on what we're talking about, this doesn't really violate anything. But the one thing I did get out of that meeting, which tabling this might throw this off the table, and is that they're under certain time constraints and dollars and for the roads and everything else, that if this gets tabled for too long, then this may make this less of a viable option for them, or they might lose dollars and have to get it somewhere else, and it'll end up costing more. And where that extra money will come from if they lose the DOT, or I'm not sure all the specifics of it. So that's one consideration you might. Well, I see that they're not here to discuss it, so maybe it's a moot point for me even saying this, but they're, I don't know if this is the best thing. It seems logical. I didn't really think we needed one until I researched it and saw how the plan and how the system worked. But if you table it for too long, then they're actually going to lose quite a bit of the money that they need to spend by a certain period of time.
Mr. Berkeley, thank you, but at this point in time, we're not tabling anything because there's nothing before us.
No.
Well, he said push it to the next meeting, so.
Yeah, and I really was the one that kind of spearheaded the advisory committee to be involved, because it's the advisory committee that's kind of driving the master plan. We are then the next layer that reviews it.
Right.
But I think it's very important. But I think too that I'm glad that Eric is on that committee. Well, in an advisory capacity, I'm on the committee as a member. But I think it's important for all the members of that committee too to understand how the airport functions.
Right.
And that's what I hope to see discussed there. It may end up, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread for the airport and the city. It may end up to be that it's not.
It's not.
Only because we don't get revenues from it. I don't know what kind of impact it might have on future development. As we had said in the last meeting, Sarasota is moving to get rid of their transfer station in downtown because it doesn't generate revenues for the city, and it's impeded development downtown. That's the only thing I've been able to find, and they had promised us that they would bring us points against the matrix that the Recondo and Associates has come up with, pros and cons for locating the transfer hub right there, because I just see that as one of the last developable corridors in the city of Vero Beach, and we want to make sure we get it right. We had kind of offered them other property up on the northwest corner, and they're like, no, we're not going to do that. So they're on a time frame, but we have a time frame, and our time frame is like 18 months. And I just don't want to push this personally. And I think there was somewhat of a consensus on the commission that we don't want to interrupt the business land use plan part of this master plan that we worked very hard to include by preempting it with a big impact project that we don't have enough information about. How is it going to impact our future development there? So that's kind of where I think the commission stands at this point. But I'm hoping that it will be brought up big time at the advisory because we're just starting the business side of that, as I understand it, right,
Right,
Eric? And
right.
then the business, quote unquote, plan will be presented at the next Airport Commission meeting.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we've pushed up the business plan portion a little bit earlier in the plan because of the GO line situation, so we can try to tie this in a little bit earlier as part of that 18-month master plan process. So I think we're doing the best we can on it. And just to clarify, my understanding is as long as the new facility is under construction by 2016, they will be okay with their grant situation, which is a little over $1 million. So I think, and talking to Karen, the time frame that we're talking about is still workable to make this happen should the majority of the people on the Airport Commission and the City Council wish to proceed. But there's still a lot of details, and we just have so many things to work out now. There's, as Buck correctly pointed out, there's really nothing to present to the Airport Commission at this point.
Right. But I'm hoping that will come up at the advisory meeting, because we are going to be pushing the business plan where Condo is going to be discussing that. And I think that's where it's really going to come into play, because it's a lot of different stakeholders that are on the advisory committee. There are people in the Chamber of Commerce and people that have property interests at the airport and everything. So I think that's going to be a major driver of how we proceed with this whole concept.
No problem.
So thank you. Any other comments at this point about the GO line? Okay. Walking tree lease. Sounds cool.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm excited.
We have in our audience the partnership, some of the members of the partnership that have made a proposal to the airport, to the city, to lease what we have known for years as Building 96 and the associated property surrounding that building. Lisa has put a little green arrow on the aerial here that points to the location of this building so you all can see where it is. I wish we could show the audience as well. But the location is basically just south of Aviation Boulevard and a little bit east of Airport Drive, or 34th Avenue. And it, for years, has been various tenants. You all may recall Allied Roofing was there and Brandt's Appliances. Before that, we had several different tenants in and out of there. And really, the airport had done very little to maintain the exterior, other than maybe some paint, some roof repair along the way, fixing a window here or there. After the hurricane, there was some damage. But in essence, there wasn't a whole lot of repair. We used it as it was, left from the Navy, as best we could for many years. Over those years, it turned out that there was probably we estimated about $300,000 worth of repairs that needed to be made to the building to bring it up to the point where we could then lease it at a fair market rate. And we were, going back and forth with the staff, how should we do this? Should we could either do the repairs and then attempt to try to lease it like we have in the past to one or two potential tenants, maybe three. I mean, it could be partitioned, and in the past it was partitioned. We had multiple tenants there. Or we could pursue finding a company that would be willing to come in and take over the entire site and then use the whole building for a business. And then right around that time frame, Mr. Berklew approached us, who was the broker for the company that was looking for a facility like this, and gave us a letter of intent. And I think Jay could speak to that and go into the details. And then through that process, we were able to present something to the Airport Commission. We have before you a lease that we've negotiated at this point that we feel will meet the FAA requirements, will meet the airport's requirements, and will meet the City Council's requirements in going forward. So without going into too many details, it looks like Jay would like to say a few words, and then if there's any questions on the lease, I think I gave it to you all in the backup. Sherry sent it all out to everybody, so you've had a chance to look at it. Be willing to entertain any questions and move forward.
All right. Today I represent Walking Tree Brewery, who is presenting the lease. This proposal has been gone over in depth over tremendous time. It's one of a very good opportunity, not only for the airport, the Airport Commission, because this is a non-functioning building that, as Eric said, would take in excess of $350,000 just to bring it up what we call in the industry a vanilla shell. with some of the damage and some vandals going in and pulling the electrical, I think the electrical, just to bring that up to code, was an extraordinary amount of money. So anyhow, fortunately, I was able to find a group that not only had the ability to go ahead and restore that building and take on this responsibility, but plans on being a pillar or an asset to our community for a long period of time. The entire reason that they are picking this location is, one, its heritage, two, its long-term sustainability of their business, so that they can move in there. This is not a temporary stop while they're going somewhere else. They're not just getting started here and we're going to jump somewhere else or see who'll give us a better deal in 5 years. This is a position where they can grow their business and keep it for the full term of the lease, if not longer. So that brings to more foundation and roots to the neighborhood, in addition to all the members of the committee being native, not only natives of Vero Beach, but native of Florida as well. Really, this is all in the best interest, and if you guys have any questions of me, I do have one thing that actually has nothing to do with the lease, but it wasn't really brought to my attention until a little bit later. If you guys remember, about a year and a half ago, we came up with a broker agreement that allows folks like me to get paid for bringing in such individuals. I've actually got a copy of it. As part of this lease, it was agreed as part of the broker agreement that realtors would get paid up to 5%. Eric brought it to my attention that because of the numbers involved, he wanted to reduce my commission. And though this has nothing to do with the lease, it's a separate matter. Actually, most of the time, commissions nowhere in a lease. It just basically says that on a normal commercial lease that so-and-so is the broker and will be paid under a separate agreement. Well, our separate agreement was 5%, and this has been reduced to 3%. So I'm respectfully asking the group not to waylay this signing of the lease, but to go ahead and return that to the original 5%. I've got copies of that section of it, and also the agreement that was formed and signed off by the county and the Airport Commission. Short of that, do you have any questions?
What does the FAA say about all this? Obviously, I remember we went through and they had to approve broker.
About what do they say about the broker portion?
Yeah.
They don't have that's a local policy that they're okay with. They don't see that as a negative. I simply felt like with the fact that we were reducing this to the lowest amount we could in order to make this deal happen and still stay fair market value. I felt it would be fair to go with 5% on the land rent, which is the maximum that the policy allows. And as Jay correctly pointed out, the policy allows up to 5%, and it's negotiable. And then 3% of the $75,000 up front. And the concession was, normally when we do the broker commissions, we pay it out as the rent comes in over a period of 5 years. I was willing to just pay it all up front because we were getting $75,000. We'll pay the whole commission up front if that's approved by the Airport Commission and the City Council, but in return, like to reduce the amount from 5% to 3% on just the building amount, which was $75,000. The land rent would still be the full maximum at 5%.
Any questions or comments by the commission?
I'm inclined to go exactly like Eric said, is once we get the $75K to pay that full commission. I have my doubts about the 3 to 5% area. Obviously we have to look at their best interests and obviously the best interests of the airport. If we were offering 3 and they wanted 5, is 4 a flexible number for everyone? Or do we want to lock it in at either A 3 or B 5%?
The standard in the industry for a lot of times I'll take a reduced commission for like long-term leases. Like it's abnormal that I'll give you for instance, I just put a factory in Melbourne on a 25-year lease. I got 3.5%. I could either take it annually or they made me a deal to pay me the whole 25 years in advance at 2.5%, so I took the check. That's the norm. The two challenges I have is, one, this was actually stated to me, this is what we're going to do. Normally this would be a negotiation where you turn around and say, okay, we'll do the deal, but you're going to have to reduce your commission or something like that, rather than just having it stated flat out. And Eric brought it to my attention over a phone call about a month and a half ago, and I said, well, that's something we'd have to negotiate, and that was about the end of it. And then I didn't get the actual copy of the lease till last week, and there wasn't. Unfortunately, this was the only opportunity I had to actually address it. So
let me get this straight. You want 5% of the upfront money plus 5% of the ongoing money on the land?
For the first 5 years, and then I'm not paid. For the additional 25 years, I don't get paid.
And is that okay? Do the owners have any problem with that?
It's not, but it's between you and me. They have nothing to do with that.
Commission.
Oh, it's between.
Eric,
Okay.
actually.
Okay.
In fact, that's why I said normally the commission's not in the lease because it's an agreement between us, not them.
But you do acknowledge that the norm is to take a cut on the upfront money.
On the upfront money?
Yeah.
No, I'd be paid that anyway.
Well, that's what you said about Melbourne. You said you went down to 2.5%.
Yeah, for the long-term lease. Because
Well, this is not a short-term lease.
This is 30 years.
This is no. On the what would be the land portion, which we're not contesting, I turned around and did it over a long term. So I took a cut because I get paid over the full 25 years of that lease, not just the first 5.
I've kind of got mixed feelings because Mr. Berkeley's done a great job. If you'll remember, he brought Dragonfly boats to us and got them moved out of the building on US 1, and now he's brought Walking Tree to us. So he's done a fantastic job of bringing tenants, and he himself is an airport tenant. But by the same token, I realize that one in the hand is two in the bush on the upfront money. So I've got mixed feelings. I'd love to see you get your money. You did a great job.
What's the difference between 3 and 5?
I don't have the numbers in front of me.
$1,500.
$1,500.
We're paying with the Dragonfly. We're paying over time.
Right.
And it's at 5%. With this one, we want to pay it all up front and reduce a portion of it by only 2%. I just feel it's very fair. That's all. I was just trying to, negotiate. I apologize we didn't communicate as best as we could.
It's a $1,500 difference?
Yes, sir.
For the
If that's what Jay says. I didn't
It's
check that.
75. Well, it's 2% of 75,000. So
Right.
So it's $1,500.
Right.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion, and you guys can do with it what you want. I move we go the full 5%. Mr. Berkeley's done an outstanding job of bringing not only viable but good for the community tenants to us for approval. $1,500 in the grand scheme of things isn't going to make or break us, and it gives Mr. Berkeley an incentive to keep doing a great job for the city. So I would move that we go with the 5% across the board.
Do we
I
have
would
a
second
second? Any discussion? Sherry, you want to?
Mr. Cantner?
Agree
Mr.
with
Hodge?
what they're going to say. And I guess
Yes.
Buck is right.
Mr. Vosell?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mrs. Darndek?
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
And I will make the change to that lease, and hopefully we can get that to City Council, I guess, in time.
But now
for
we
the,
have to.
And you better
approve.
produce, buddy.
Now we have to produce.
That's right. Back it up.
Let's have a motion on whether we accept the lease.
Yeah, we haven't talked
we got
about
a
the lease
detail
terms
here,
too
but
much
we
here.
haven't accepted the lease. Do I have a motion to accept the lease with
Absolutely.
with
So
the
moved.
change
So
to
moved.
the 5%?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion?
Nope.
Let's recommend it. Well, I guess Sherry better take a.
Mr. Cantner?
Yes.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mr. Vosell?
Aye.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mrs. Darndek?
Yes.
5-0.
I think Mr. Drittenbass would like to say a few words. Is that okay?
Well, we know it's going to be a good-looking building.
Paul Drittenbass, 4885 13th Place, Vero Beach. Thank you and good morning. The only thing regarding the motion that you just approved was maybe I should address you, Lisa. We have all signed the signature page and had it notarized. Can we just modify the page with the verbiage in it, or do we have to re-sign again? Because we have people all over the country right now.
I know. I think we can do that. I wish we had one of the representatives from the city attorney's office, but I think, we're not substantially changing the terms of the lease. In fact, we're not changing them at all, so
Right.
it's just a commission thing, and I believe my just using common sense, I think we could change out the words and still keep it at the same formatting,
Can't you just make an addendum to the lease?
Or just initial that page, the revision on that page,
Yeah.
because we're on the agenda for the 17th for the council, I believe.
Yeah, and we could put it on the record today, and we could put it on the record at the city council meeting that the tenants agreed to the commission change as well as the city. So it'd be on the record. As long as it's on the record, I think it would be fine.
I don't think there's
Just a question for your committee, for this commission. Personally, I don't understand why your agreement with the broker has to be in our lease, but maybe that's something that the FAA requires or your council, your board requires, but it's just confusing.
Well, it only has to be there because in attachment B, which is the thick part of the lease, it says broker commissions are not allowed. And so we have to have a special provision in the lease to allow the commission.
I understand.
Because that then is overpowers the provision in attachment B. That's one of those things that the city for many years was not willing to do, broker commissions at all. And one of the problems with that is because you end up with situations like this where you negotiate a commission at a public meeting. I don't think that's the right way to go, personally. I think we should have handled that better. But we did it, and I think we can handle it the way that the commission would like to do it. In the future, the only way to handle that would be to come up with some straight commission schedule or something that was in attachment B, or we totally are silent in attachment B on commissions, and then, like you said, handle it outside. But the way that we have to go with what's in attachment B, that's what's been approved by City Council, and the only way to offset what is in that standard set of provisions is by having a special provision in the cover lease.
Thank you, Eric. And in closing, again, I just want to thank, on behalf of Walking Tree Brewery, Jay Berklew and his stellar efforts to get us into this building. Eric, your efforts, and Lisa, it's been trying, taking a lot of time and effort, but I think it's all going to be well worth it. And we're very excited about being in Indian River County. And
Can't wait to see it.
It'll be fun.
I know.
Thank you very much.
Eric, real quick, and you haven't heard back from the FAA yet, though.
I did this morning.
You did? Okay.
I got a call, believe it or not, at 7:49 this morning from the FAA program manager, who indicated that he understood our situation and the explanation that Lisa and I provided to him with the appraisal process and with Alan's assistance on the appraisal. We got them all the data. They said that they understand it and they're willing to move forward with it. However, the program manager needed the manager's approval of the Orlando ADO, and he wasn't in the office today. So all we have now is a verbal agreement that it looks reasonable. On Monday, I hope to have an email from the FAA with the approval, which then will go to the City Council Tuesday, hopefully with that. So all we could do at this point is approve the lease pending FAA approval.
Okay. Anything else about this? Thank you very much, and we're looking forward to having you here. Old business. Update on the airport master plan?
Yes, ma'am. And one thing I would mention to Walking Tree before they leave is that if for some reason we can't get all this changed legally, we will still be able to make the July 1st City Council meeting without any problem, and that's the effective date of the lease. So we're going to do our best to get on the July 17th next Tuesday. If for some reason we can't,
June 17th.
We'll keep working on it.
That's good. Thank you.
They're not meeting July? Oh, okay. Well, that's news.
Paul.
Hopefully we'll get it on the 17th then. Lisa, you have your work cut out for you.
One of the signers.
Yeah, okay. Okay, update on the airport master plan. We already talked about it a little bit, and I mentioned the July 21st meeting of the Airport Master Plan Advisory Panel, led by Chairman Berklew, who was making some comments. And as I said, we should be getting some back up to you all fairly soon on the strategic business plan portion of that airport master plan, which we've been moving as quickly as we can in order to try to assist with the negotiations on the Go Line proposal. So that's coming. We will meet on the July 21st. As I mentioned, I'm a advisory to that board. I am not a voting member. At 3 p.m. on July 21st at City Hall right here. And the focus will be the strategic business plan. Beyond that, they've got about 60% of the data collection done on the operational side. They're putting together data as quickly as they can. As you know, it is a long process. And following the July 21st public meeting, we'll have another meeting at the Airport Commission meeting, either in August or at the one after that. But we're working as hard as we can. It looks like things are coming together. I don't have a lot of backup to tell you about. But they're working on data collection, as I mentioned. They're working on the activity forecasts, and most of the data has been received. They're still working on a little bit of collection from airport staff and from airport tenants. They have to reconcile some differences with the operations that we have had with the FAA, but I think we've gotten really close to doing that. One of the problems is, the FAA is not here from 9 o'clock at night until 7 in the morning. As you all know, the tower closes. So operations that happen at night, we record via radio recordings, and then we manually document those. So we feel that our operations are more accurate than what the FAA has. They only have a limited number. We add that with ours and we come up with a number, but it's always different from the FAA. So our process is trying to reconcile that and making sure the FAA approves the numbers we have.
I would like to invite all my fellow commission members to attend this meeting if you can, and please bring your ideas for what you envision the airport should look like, land use, business ideas, because that's really what I think is going to be talked about at this meeting, and it's important to get input to them, not just once they get it to us and then we discuss it. So
That's here in this chamber.
it'll be here, yeah. And it's kind of like a open workshop type of thing where Jay's in charge of it. And then, but it's going to be discussed. I think Recondo will they have a presentation?
Yes, they've already presented a draft of what to do to Todd and I at the airport staff level, and we made some comments. We've sent it back to them. Once we receive that revised draft back, I'd like to maybe, Barb, if you'd like to come in sometime, we'll go over it so you'll have a little bit of advance information. You'll know what's going on and what's coming. And then once we're all done with that, we'll send it out to all of the panel members and have a review on the 21st meeting.
And if I'm not mistaken, currently the Aviation Boulevard area is zoned light industrial.
Right.
Correct? And in fact, I think most of the airports basically zoned light industrial. Just something for everybody to think about. My concept would be to make Aviation Boulevard more commercial retail and promote the northern side of the airport as the light industrial, so that the sports village can grow. There's some talk of the redoing Dodgertown hotels. If we have too many factories, that's going to really cut that out. That's personal opinion, but those are the kinds of things that I think will be discussed at the meeting. So anything, if you can't come to the meeting, send your ideas and your feelings and thoughts about the airport development, because it is the last big developable property in the city of Vero Beach. And again, I want to see this done right. I'd like to see Aviation Boulevard become another main east-west corridor. So, how do you guys envision it being developed? I think that's going to be really important. That's why we push so hard to get a business land use plan into the master plan. And I think the FAA is going to be happy with the whole concept because they hadn't thought of this. I don't know why, but, they want us to be self-supporting, but they never thought of having a business plan. So I think this is a really important part of our master plan. So if you all would do that, if you can't make the meeting, I think, can they just send something to Eric or to you that could be
They'd
brought
send
up?
it to the clerk's office.
To the clerk's office,
please.
if you have something that
Some ideas,
you would
yes,
like
that you'd like to
have shared
incorporated.
at the advisory meeting, if you can't make it.
How difficult is it to rezone from light industrial to retail? And
Well,
is that a major, like 2-year problem?
there's been a push to rezone from light industrial to commercial, just an overall commercial designation, because much of the city that is similar to airport property that's used for the similar purposes is called commercial, whereas we call it light industrial. It's just one of the planning department's desires to do that anyway. So I think that's a good question. I don't know how difficult and how long it takes. I don't think it's a huge problem. It's just something that has to go through a public P&Z and a couple of public processes.
Right.
But that could be done, and
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea to include.
Because we did discover that the airport does not come under, which I think they got rid of it anyway, that DRI's, Development of Regional Importance, or whatever it was, because we are included in the city's comp plan already. So I think it's basically, I think it's basically a city function. It's not something that goes to the state where the state says, no, you can't rezone that. I may be wrong on that, but at least that's how it was. And so Metropolitan Planning Organization, I don't think any of those people come into play on this because it's part of the city's comprehensive plan.
And like, I think what Barbara's correctly stated, what we're trying to get is vision ideas from this body and from the city council, at the first public meeting that we'll be holding down the road, and from the community. Here's what we think needs to happen. Then the staff will take that, that group of information, and then we'll go down through the filtering process with our technical folks, like with Tim McGarry in the planning department and others, to filter out what can and can't be done under state law and DRI requirements and whatnot, and then we'll come back with, all right, here's all the things we would like to do, here's what we think we really can do, and we'll proceed then to this body for a review. But at this point, we just need the ideas, and I would like to see some of the big visionary ideas, like a conference center, a hotel, and business plan that includes mixed use development, so that you can have employment in the enterprise zone where people can work in and live in the same general area, and those kind of ideas that we can use for long-term vision of the airport. So the next time we'll actually get to discuss this will be at the July 21st meeting of the advisory panel, and that is open to the public. Anybody can come. All the airport commissioners are welcome to come to that. And that'll be on July 21st at 3 p.m. There will be some materials that will go out to the advisory panel according to the update by July 3rd. So right before the July 4th holiday, there should be a package of information to initiate the discussion of the strategic business plan that will come out to the advisory panel, and I'd be happy to make that available to anybody that would like to look at it. It's public information. And then before that, we're working on the FAA thing, as I mentioned, with the data collection. That should be June 20th is the deadline to get all that done. So we'll have all the FAA approved data. We'll have the strategic business plan all going before the advisory panel on the 21st.
And I know one of the things, going back to the GO line briefly, they were kind of holding over our head that they might help widen Aviation Boulevard, which was already in place until the money was moved to 53rd Avenue. I'm kind of hoping that if we can develop this plan, that we can at least include widening Aviation Boulevard from US 1 to 43rd Avenue as part of our strategic plan for this corridor, and that potentially the FAA then, because they are excited about our whole business plan and land use plan, might consider funding part of that infrastructure in order to support our core vision. Currently, if I understand this right, Eric, the FDOT is the one that primarily does transportation funds like this,
Correct.
Roadway funds.
Yeah. It'll be
I'm
unlikely
hoping that we might be able to get them all excited if we're all excited about it, and maybe get some potential funding that wouldn't have, that there wouldn't be the strings attached like currently come generally with the county funds. Just an idea. So think about that while you're doing stuff. Think about the sports village, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And how we can promote the industrial side as well. Who can we bring in? Yeah.
I had one question. We were talking about possible rezoning, and I know that can be a lengthy process. One of my companies in Pennsylvania, I had to get a variance for one of my businesses that was in a zoning area that was not quite zoned for that particular business. And I had to go and present a great deal of data before the county commissioners, but I was approved for that variance. Any reason that on an individual basis for somebody that brings something up that wants to put something there that we can say, well, you're not 100% zoned for that. However, you could apply for a variance to be utilized so we could use airport property in a revenue-generating way, which is what we're all trying to do.
I wouldn't think there'd be any problem with that. I think what we're trying to do, and just to be clear, we don't want to build the infrastructure other than maybe Aviation Boulevard, but we want to provide the framework.
Correct.
So that independent businesses can come in and be pretty much assured that there is a plan, that if they build a hotel, there's not going to be a factory right next door. That's sort of where I see this going personally, like I said, on the south side of the airport. So any comments or thoughts on that?
Well, because it's inside the city limits, I would think that it would be much simpler than what you had to go through with your variance.
Yeah, I would think so.
This is a city that I've seen that works really well together. Doesn't seem to be any knocking of heads.
And I think they're pretty interested in what can we do with this property too, in terms of coming up with a plan.
Yeah.
And the fact that we are self-sufficient and trying to generate revenue,
right.
So we're not dependent on any local funds and so forth and so on.
Right.
That should be definitely be a plus in that worksheet.
Eric, a separate question. Have we ever entertained
The mic. Can you get that?
Have we ever entertained inviting the Florida Air National Guard to locate on the airport at all?
No.
Is there any reason for that? Is it we just didn't think about it?
No.
Or would it conflict because it's a state facility, financed?
It's just something I haven't looked into.
Okay.
Yeah.
Closest one is up in Orlando. There's an aviation brigade up there.
Yeah,
National
I was
Guard.
thinking of the from Orlando all the way down. I think the next one south, if I remember right, is Fort Lauderdale. So it would be another facility that could lease or maybe even develop part of the airport.
I am open to suggestions. I think that's what we need to do is put these down, send them to Sherry, and let's compile some of these so that we don't lose track of them. Of course, it's on the record, and they'll be in the minutes. But I just want to make sure that we get all this together and we'll follow through. And there may be some ideas that we haven't even thought of. I hope that some of these will come out. I hope some of the people in the public are paying attention too and looking at how can we better use the airport. As I mentioned, it's not my airport, and I'm not going to be here forever. And I'd like to have some really visionary ideas come through and how best we can use this little community airport, because it's been a great airport for many years, and we certainly want to keep it going on that track. And I appreciate the idea, Skip, and anything else that you all can bring forward would be helpful.
I have a quick question about the widening that has been talked about, not yet done, but I know what Goal Line has asked for and said that they would do with certain portions of Aviation Boulevard. Before the money was moved, what were the plans for Aviation Boulevard that were put out there?
I believe it was to go from US 1 all the way to 66th Avenue. And that portion has widened from 58th.
Right.
And from what I understand from the Vero Beach Planning Department, everything was all in place. And the biggest hurdle to the right-of-way was actually between 43rd and 58th Avenue, because there's a lot of homes along there. But as far as I know, and I've talked to Monty and Tim McGarry, there were not right-of-way problems with the airport property. They were citing the curve there with the little piece of property that he wasn't going to do it, and I was told he was fine with that.
All of those hurdles can be worked out. There were minor hurdles that needed to be fixed. With any project that large, you're going to have right-of-way issues that can be worked out one by one, whether it's on the airport or whether it's near the residential areas that Chairman was talking about. But we have a process, and we have a pretty good, from my understanding, we have a pretty good set of plans for a good project to do Aviation Boulevard, at least from US 1 to 43rd.
Yeah.
Then beyond that, that was going to be phase 2 in the project. Once we got that widened to that point, you'd have a road there. You'd have the section from 58th to 66th, which has already been widened by the mall. But that section from the residence was going to be probably the one that would be a little bit difficult to work with, but it could still be done. We would love to see that happen, to be a benefit to the airport, and we will continue to talk along those lines using the Go Line proposal as a way to discuss that issue.
Well, and I think it would be important for the community, because right now all the pressure is on State Road 60. and the racetrack through downtown. So if you could bypass that by coming up Aviation Boulevard and turning back on it like 43rd, which is getting widened all the way to Aviation Boulevard. Am I correct about that? That's getting widened already. Now you've got another east-west route for people coming off of the Barrier Island, et cetera. It takes the pressure off of downtown, which is trying to redevelop itself. It just seems like it's a win-win, but not to get tied up and with the strings of the GO line saying, you know, we're not going to, if you don't do this, we're not going to give you money. That's why I'd like to include it in our business plan and approach the FAA and other
idea.
people to say, look, this is strategic for the airport and the future of the airport. What can you do for us? And kind of take the, you know, the pressure off of, well, we're going to promise you this. Like I said, they did promise us once and they pulled the funding, although the city manager seemed to indicate that if the funding was pulled, if they did agree to do this, that would terminate their lease. So I'm sure they wouldn't be interested in that.
Right.
So I would like to see us kind of move forward in this fashion and discuss the GO line as part of, is that strategic to have it there or not?
Sure.
You know, I have my opinions, but we need the opinions of everybody, the community, the whole commission, everything.
Yeah, that's going to be some interesting discussions to come. But please put your thinking caps on and think long term and spend a Sunday afternoon thinking about the airport and write down a few comments.
All right. Any more questions or input on the master plan from anybody? Okay. How about we go to air show follow-up?
Yeah, I've got some great news on that. We estimate, we being the board of directors and myself, I am actually not on the board. I'm in a non-voting board member, you could say, representing the airport as a technical advisor. The board met and estimated that we had about 55 to 57,000 people in attendance during the May 10th and 11th Vero Beach Air Show. Thanks in large part to having the Blue Angel jet team, because, I mean, from October to, we went from about, I think we probably lost $6,000 or $7,000 in the October 2013 show to a huge turnout at the Blue Angel show 7 months later. So it was a big increase. We estimate that in excess of $100,000 will be donated to local charities, and these will all be local, going to use right here in our county. That's to happen within the next few months. There's still some monies and things going to get a final number, but that all looks really good going forward. And the board also decided that because of our smaller population and potential volunteer burnout and sponsor burnout and things like that, we've decided to go every 2 years, so that the next show will be May 2016 is the plan. We'll be pursuing a jet team, of course, for that, and whether it'll be the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds or some other jet team, that hasn't been decided. So we do have some Air Force fans out there too, believe it or not. It's hard to believe, but we're gonna have one of those teams. We're gonna pursue any and all, and we've even talked about an F-22. Because we need to get some of the more modern military assets if we can get them. Probably don't want a Harrier. I just don't really want something like that on my new pavement out there and Runway 4 and other places. So, but going forward, it should be another exciting show in May of 2016, and we'll always be looking for sponsors and volunteers. As a matter of fact, some sponsors are already knocking on the door. So, hey, that was great. We want to help out with that next time. So, if you know anybody, send them to the airport, and I'll put them in touch with the new board. We are going to be putting together a new board here in the next few months, and that board will then go forward in the planning stages for the May 2016 air show.
Okay, Chairman's Matters. I don't really have anything. I know Buck said he has to leave at 10:30. Could we shuffle things around a little bit and discuss the date of the next meeting? Because I know I'm going to be gone, and we have an alternate date unless too many of you can't make that.
I checked with the city clerk's office, and August 4th is available. That's
I'm
a
going to be
Thursday.
at 12,500 feet on my honeymoon.
Oh, good for you.
On the
I've got my
28th,
honeymoon on
yeah.
my anniversary on the
Your honeymoon, huh?
28th. Yeah, my honeymoon.
Does your husband know about
it's
that?
always it's a constant honeymoon.
You can stop at 5,280 feet.
Oh God, yeah, I know. It's a heck of a
Well,
climb.
he's making a
but-
milestone.
Exactly.
So what was the date?
Well, 28th was what we had on the schedule.
So August.
And as you all recall, this body decided to have scheduled meetings in an attempt to try to keep
Right.
everybody so we can make plans around it. It's been difficult to do. Things come up. We have tenants that come and go, and they have changes.
So
We
you're thinking
need
about
special
when?
call meetings.
The 14th?
August 14th
That's a Thursday?
Yes.
at 9:30.
Hang on. My
If there
granddaughter's getting married, and I got to remember which date it is.
If there isn't a consensus, I can just be absent.
14 would be,
Thursday.
Thursday. Yes,
and then
August.
28 would be an alternate, or 14
Well,
is
it's
firm?
currently scheduled for the 28th. But if we can change it to the 14th, I would appreciate that. But if we have too many people that can't make it on the 14th,
Okay with me?
Let's go with it, and then I got to double check.
the 14th. Arthur, how about,
That 14th is okay.
okay, that
14th 's
Dick's
all right.
okay.
I'm not doing anything. at
Okay, let's change it to the,
12,500 feet.
yeah. Just
Lower.
trying to breathe, just trying to breathe. All right, August 14th is the new date. We've already got that scheduled, 9:30. Okay, and real quick, Eric, maybe you want to get into the budget schedule real quickly, so Buck can hear
Okay.
some of this.
Yes. The city manager reviewed the budget for the airport this week, and there were no significant large changes to it. It looks really good going forward. You know, we do have some personnel issues to work at. As you know, we had loss of one of our employees. The city manager and finance director agreed to leave the budget as it was, as if we had the full 8 that we had before, so that I'll be able to replace. We'll be able to go out and hire somebody, hopefully in the next few months, and replace Frank. So we're working on that. It all looks good. Our budget was approved and funded. We were able to find enough money in our proposed budgets to fund all of the airport capital program that we have, understanding that some of that may change in the out years due to the airport master plan process. And the next meeting on the airport budget will be July 9th at 2 p.m. at City Hall. That will be the City Council review of the airport budget. So I encourage any or all of the airport commissioners that would like to be there to participate or listen. I will be presenting the budget for the airport on July 9th at 2 p.m. at City Hall. And that'll be for the FY 2015 fiscal year and 5-year capital program. Do you want me to go into the update on the airport projects?
Yeah, why don't we do that real quick,
Okay.
too?
Okay, just real quickly. Ocalina Bank, that was the parcel of property right across from the Chevron where the restaurant used to be for many years. Demolition is substantially complete. Cost twice as much as we had thought it was because we found well over 20 tons of concrete buried underneath the soil that the Navy had left there that was totally unknown to us.
But you don't have a picture of what was there, do you?
Not here.
You didn't bring it?
I have it at the office, but no, I don't.
Yeah, you guys should see it. It was an old power plant.
Yeah.
What kind of plant?
It was a power plant for
Oh, my gosh.
for the base, I guess.
Yeah.
I drove by frequently and saw what was going on.
Did you? Okay.
You can pull it up online, all those old pictures.
Yeah, a big brick smokestack was there, and they removed everything above ground, and I guess some of it must have been just buried underneath, and there was a 7 feet deep piece of thick, a piece of concrete, and I guess it was 6 or 7 feet wide that just took, a lot of chipping, and the contractor broke several hammers on it, hydraulic hammers to try to remove that concrete. Finally got it all out. Good news is at least some of that went to the the artificial reef that's down there in Fort Pierce. So, and that was at a request of one of our council members, Amelia Graves, suggested we do that when I was requesting for additional funding from the state and had approval. And she suggested that. I said, that's a great idea. We went and talked to the contractor, put them together with the powers that be that needed to make that happen. And so a lot of that concrete is being recycled and being reused, and it was clean concrete. Some of it has some rebar in it, but that wasn't any problem for the reef. I think they cut some of it off, but the rest of it went down there. And also some of it went to filling in a deep lake that needed to be redone. So
why couldn't they just leave it there? That's a great base for a bank.
Good question. And that's the first thought we had. Do we have to spend all this money? Right. But the engineer for the tenant insisted that all of it be removed because the site plan and the proposal that they were putting forward was using pervious concrete for pavement that required drainage to the water to percolate down through the pavement and then into the soil, and they felt that they couldn't meet their engineering requirements for percolation if there was these big chunks of concrete under there, so it had to come out. Had it not been for that, we might have been able to, as has been done in the past for the restaurant, just leave it there and build over it. So the cost did accelerate quite a bit. We are now going to spend about $70,000 of airport dollars and another $70,000 of state dollars thereabouts to do that demolition. Thank goodness we did have a grant in place that covered it 50-50, but still, it's a very expensive proposition. We probably would have had to do that anyway if we're ever going to do that property. Regardless, we have a clean site ready for development. The site planning process for Ocalina is underway, and pending an approved building permit, they should be done with the building by December of this year, hopefully without any weather delays and things like that.
We'll have a brewery and a bank. That's great.
Yeah. And then on our Runway 422 project and Taxiway Alpha and Echo, that's been completed, and we're waiting for approval of final payment to the contractor, Ranger. And not only has it been done, but we even used it for the air show for parking out there, and everything was fine.
What's going on with the LED lighting?
What's the question? I'm sorry.
LED lighting?
Yes, that was part of this project.
But not on Runway 12?
No, not on Runway 12 yet. That's the only runway left that has incandescent bulbs on it. That's coming up in our 5-year capital plan for 2019, I think it is, to begin the design on that project and redo the main runway, and included will be the LEDs, and then everything will be LEDs. But we're moving forward on all that. And we did redesignate the, as Buck mentioned, it used to be 1-1 right, now it's 1-2 right, and we did that for the parallels, all for both runways, included as part of that project. So that's all been done, and we now have all even runways, all even numbered runways. Wildlife hazard assessment is underway. We should get a final report this month, and we should be done with that, and then we'll move on to after the assessment, we'll move on to a wildlife hazard management plan, which we are pursuing federal and or state funding to do as a requirement of the FAA. Our GA, General Aviation Apron, is we're working forward, and the state has been very generous with us on additional funding for that, because we were going to do 2 FBOs over there. Now we're going to do 3. Plus, we're going to fix Taxiway Bravo out there along the west side of the airport where Taxiway Bravo is. There's a little developing pavement deviation or dip in the pavement, and that has to be repaired because if an aircraft's going over there and it's getting worse, if it dips, it could nick a prop or a wingtip, even fairing or something. So we've actually closed a section of the taxiway right now until we get that repaired. But the good news is we're going to include that in this project and hopefully get started as soon as possible on just that section of the taxiway, and then we'll move on to the GA apron after that. A note to that is that we have partnership with our FBOs in helping to fund that. Those 3 FBOs will need to supply some funding in order to match our grants for that project.
Where's that dip, Eric, relative to Paris or corporate?
Let's see if I can reach it. Right. See this drainage line right here?
Oh, yeah.
Right about there.
Okay.
And you can see it continues west.
Oh, yeah.
Before there was an airport, there was drainage, and some of it was even put in after. This part was put in after to drain either this direction or that direction. But apparently something is collapsing under that pavement. I don't know if anybody can hear on the television, but there's some pavement that's collapsing over a drainage pipe, we think. And we haven't got in there yet. We're going to be doing some ground penetrating radar surveys of that area to find what's actually underneath there, but that's what we think it is. And we're estimating $70,000 to $100,000 to fix it. And rather than wait until our overall taxiway Bravo renovation, which is programmed years down the road, we're going to include that section of the pavement in the general aviation project to fix it so that we don't have to spend 100% airport dollars on it, because it could be kind of expensive. Well, it is expensive. So in the meantime, we do have a little closure out there. It's not too bad, but we didn't want to risk any liability of fixing somebody's airplane, so we closed that section. The airport access road, Airport Drive and 34th Avenue Bridge is underway. Did you have a question, Cap?
No, I was just thinking.
The access road is underway. It's under design right now, and Kimley Horn is doing that, and it's about 60% complete. We hope to start construction at the end of this year or early next year. And then one last little detail. The website is new. Take a look at our new website. Again, I think I mentioned at the last meeting, but also we have a noise reporting form on there, and we've had a couple people fill out a online noise report, and we're keeping records of that. So it's apparently working. That's all I've got.
Okay, any more members' comments about anything that you want to bring up?
I would like to congratulate Eric, Todd, Lisa, and their staff for probably one of the classiest memorial services I've ever seen in my entire life. You guys did in a short period of time, you did a miracle. It was just tearful. It touched my heart, and I know Barbara feels about the same. But I just like to congratulate
it was wonderful.
Yeah, all of our staff came together on that. Lisa even made a little collage for the family. That was she spent a lot of hours on that, and Todd got all the pilots together that were willing to do it all for free without any cost for fuel. And Frank was just well respected on the airport. And
I was surprised that there's not, or maybe I missed it, there wasn't anything in the newspaper. Because I've got some photos that I took with my iPhone with it, but I'm sure there was a photographer there. That was pretty classy. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, we're adjourned. Hopefully we'll see you on the 21st at the advisory meeting, and then our new meeting August 14th.
Okay.
Thank you.